How do we know when is the right time to walk away from something that doesn't serve us anymore so we can receive the abundance that the universe has in store for us? I believe our intuition always gives us hints, if we are to listen, to when something is not serving us anymore and it's time to walk away and make space for the new. But I think the hard part is walking away, knowing that this is not serving us, but we're so stuck with our ways, with our habits, with what's familiar, that it's so hard to walk away. Also, in our culture, there's this narrative that we give up too early. And I think that many times makes us stay in something that doesn't serve us way too long. And then we're missing on the goodness that it's in store for us. Because if you are holding on to the old, you're not going to make space for the new. Because in order to attract the new things that is in store for you, you have to let go of the old, learn your lessons, accept the fact that you have changed, you have grown, you became an energetic match to something else that is better. Because if something is not working, you're not any more energetic match for it. You were energetic match to that person, to that job, to these friends before, but now you have grown, you have changed. Also, these people, they have grown, they have changed. And the energies change because energy is never static. Energetically, we change. So now you have to let go so you can attract what is energetic match to you right now. But the hard part is knowing that and not taking the action because of fear of the unknown, and because we're so used to the things that we have, because our brain craves that familiar feeling, because our brain is meant to keep us safe. This is familiar, at least you know it. Imagine if it's worse out there, and all the what ifs. I did a video on all the what ifs and the fears of the unknown that keep us stuck. Maybe you can go back and watch it. But this is one of the biggest things that keeps us stuck to where we are. Relationships, like everything else, like friendships, like work, it takes an effort. We have to work on it. But there's a difference between two people working and striving for something that they want to make it work versus one person doing the work and being taken for granted, or where both people tried but they cannot give anything anymore because they're no more energetic match to each other. It's so hard to accept that we have given each other everything that we could. We met for a reason, learned the lessons, and now there's nothing anymore to give to each other. So it's okay to let that go, have a closure, move on, and go to the next thing. And also, we're going to touch upon one of the things that a lot of us struggle with, the belief that love has to be earned through hard work. Like, love is so hard and we have to work so hard for it. Very often from childhood, we had to work so hard to gain the approval and love of well-meant adults. And now we believe that we have to work very hard for that love. And although it's true, we have to work in every relationship to make it work, sometimes it's work that is rooted in that childhood trauma and is I'm staying, even if I'm miserable, even if this thing is not working, but I gotta make it work because subconsciously you're trying to gain the approval of that parent or that person back to when you were a child. And it's very important to reflect and recognize why we are in these situations so we know where that it stems from. So let's go first to number one, recognizing the signs of when it's time to let go. So one is notice your energy. Do you feel drained and not empowered? Every relationship has its difficult moments, the ebb and flows, every friendship, every job, and so on. However, if you are constantly leaving these interactions feeling drained, unappreciated, unhappy, that is a major red flag. Relationships, romantic, platonic, professional, should add value to your life and not deplete you. Maybe not all the time happy, but we have to feel content and we have to feel appreciated and valued. This is, in my opinion, the most important thing because we're all humans. No one is perfect. But if we don't feel valued and appreciated most of the times, that is a big red flag. And I think that actually drains us more than anything else, at least for me. If I feel like I'm putting the work, I'm there, of course, I'm not perfect. There'll be moments that my childhood programming on my survival mechanisms will come into play and create a conflict. That is absolutely normal. But if I'm putting the work consistently and I still feel the other person is not reciprocating and I'm feeling like undervalued, underappreciated, taken for granted, and feeling like I'm letting myself down, I'm betraying myself. So if you feel like you have to compromise just to keep the peace, even though it's against your values, that thing that you're compromising on, that is a big red flag because that is how you let yourself down. That is how you feel unappreciated, taking for granted, like your opinion, feelings, emotions, they don't matter. Like you don't matter. And you're going to feel like you're letting and betraying yourself down. And that ultimately will lead to your self-esteem and self-confidence suffering, which is one of the worst things, because then you're going to look down on yourself and that will affect every area of your life. If we don't feel good emotionally and mentally, that will show up physically. And that is how a lot of illnesses come up, when our emotional equilibrium is disturbed. We spend so much time at work and so much time with our loved ones that if that is draining us, that will drain our energy and affect us physically. So ask yourself, does this situation, person, job, whatever it is, most of the times lift me up or weighs me down? That is a good question to reflect on. Number two, recognizing signs is you're the one compromising most of the times. And of course, with relationships, depending on what the other person is going through, they might be sometimes, 80-20, 50-50, 40-60. It's not always all this constant, okay, 50-50. I mean, that would be an ideal world, but that's unrealistic with friendships, with job, with relationships, whatever it is. So every relationship is give and take. But if you feel like you're always the one making the sacrifices while the other party is unwilling to meet you halfway, or it's expecting you to not meet halfway, but to be more the giver, is clear and balanced. Maybe you're constantly adjusting your schedule, your life, and giving up the things that matter to you for your partner or for your friends or family, but they never reciprocate that. Bottom line is relationships have to feel like a teamwork. And if you're the one only rowing the boat, it's time of a question whether it's sustainable. So ask yourself, am I the only one rowing the boat? Am I the one compromising? Or there's a mutual effort here? The third one is you're losing yourself. When a relationship or situation is causing you to lose touch with who you are, that is a serious issue. We value different things. You might value playing sports all the time. Your partner might value traveling. Or if one person wants to be in the woods and the other is a city person, then there's a mismatch, or you got to find compromise. But if you have stopped pursuing your own passions, and you had to suppress that part of your personality to keep the peace, that often creates situations where we feel like we're losing ourselves, like we are trying to please the other person to keep the peace, but we're not doing things to fill up our cup. And if we don't fill up our cup, how can we give to someone else? How can we give to the relationship? Because ultimately, we're going to feel miserable and unhappy. And when this occurs, we're staying in a situation where we're trying to fit into someone else's mold or expectations. And if you have communicated that and things are not changing, and you have given a time and you tried, maybe it's the time to rethink that relationship. That is not selfish. That is not giving up. That is putting your needs first and valuing yourself. And this is self love ultimately. Like even in a friendship, if you are just agreeing to keep the peace and avoid conflict so the other person doesn't get triggered and stop being your friend, well, that's not a two-way street. That is not a real friendship. Or for a job, if you are sacrificing your value for a paycheck, that is a big trade-off. And then ultimately, you're going to start looking down on yourself because you're compromising your values. So ask yourself, am I still living authentically? Or have I become someone that I can't recognize? The next thing is the belief that love has to be hard work. And I mentioned that in the beginning, but this is something that I think a lot of us need to hear because sometimes we believe that love has to be earned, has to be such hard work. And that is programming, like I said, from childhood, that we had to earn the love and approval of well-meant adults. And for example, maybe you grew up in an environment where love or approval felt conditional on your grades or the things you did, on the chores and so on. You had to work so hard to make your parents proud, to behave in a certain way, or to meet their expectations in order to feel loved. So these expectations can create belief that love is something you have to fight for, that is not freely given, but earned. You're not lovable if you don't provide X, Y, Z. It's not gonna come to you easily, and no one will love you just because of who you are, but they're gonna love you because you gotta provide those things. You gotta accomplish those things. And if you're not, then love will not be given to you. And that is so exhausting because that is not what love is supposed to be. Love is supposed to be given, and we're supposed to receive love just because we are who we are with our flaws and everything. And so we carry as adults this programming from childhood, and we're staying in situations where it's far beyond repair, but we still believe we have to work so hard for someone else's affection, approval, validation, and love. And so the truth is, healthy love doesn't require you to prove your worth. It's freely given, it's mutual, it's rooted in respect. I don't have to perform so you can see my worth, so you can love me. You don't have to perform. You gotta be you. And if we are a match, we are a match. But we don't have to prove to each other so we can love each other. And no one is perfect. So if you have noticed that you're constantly earning someone's love or approval, it might be worth reflecting on where these beliefs come from, because that might not be the other person. That might be you in your programming. And so ask yourself, am I staying because I truly feel valued, or because I'm stuck in the pattern of proving my worth? You see the difference? Because, for example, if you are in this relationship and you don't feel valued, but you're staying, and you're constantly feeling like you have to prove your worth to this person. And if you just do this one more thing and this other thing, they're gonna see your value and they're gonna fall in love with you and commit to you. But this is such a twisted backward way of thinking because of our childhood programming. So now let's talk about moving on, how we can do that in an empowering way. Letting go, it's hard. But here are a few ways how we can move forward in a more empowering way. Number one is set clear boundaries. When you decide to walk away, set boundaries and stick to them. For example, If it's a friendship, communicate that you need space. If it's a job, define your exit plan and stick to your decision. If you are to leave a relationship, decide, sit down with the person, give them the closure, get the closure you need if that's possible. Sometimes it's not possible. And you know what? Sometimes it's not necessary. Sometimes we can give the closure that we need. I can do another video on what worked for me. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a video on a second time breakup with the same person. I use different techniques and different things, and it was much, much more helpful. The second thing would be seek support. So without support, without my friends, I don't know if I would have able to do it the way I did it. Although the second time around, I did not share with anyone, but just my mom, because the first time I was sharing a lot and everyone had their own perspective because they only knew this person through my words or here and there that we had interactions. So, of course, people wanted me to be happy. People want me to be with someone. So, a lot of times they would, just tell me to stay. And other friends would be like, I would have been gone by now, long time ago, girl. And so I didn't want to listen this time. I wanted to listen only to my intuition. The support I needed this time was to look inward, to get grounded, to do a lot of meditation, yoga, journaling. I wanted to learn to support myself and not go and talk to everyone about it, relive the whole thing again, and get emotional and spend another minute on this earth wasting my time talking about this person and the past. And so I did it this way. However, don't do it alone, whether it's leaning to friends or family or a therapist. I have my therapist, I have my mom, and I have a lot of friends. But this time, like I said, I only relied a little bit on my mom and on myself. There's a strength in asking for help. The next thing is focus on growth. So this is really, really the key to learning a lesson, to moving on. It's redirect your energy into things that light you up. Start a new project. Take up a hobby that you've always wanted to try. Or spend time nurturing relationships that truly matter. Maybe you have neglected relationships, friendships. Go back, try to nurture them. Growth happens when you create space for new opportunities. And be open to the world. Be open to new experiences. Because there's no point of leaving something if you are going to be stuck in your head about that thing. Because you are not in the present moment. You left that situation because you wanted to grow and feel nurtured, elevated, and empowered. But if you're stuck in your head thinking about the past, that is never going to happen. So take your time, grieve, cry, and all that, and then move on and focus on growth. So walking away, it's not giving up. It's about choosing yourself. You deserve relationships, friendships, environments that support your growth and happiness because we have one chance in this life. We don't have unlimited number of years. And if you're in your 20s and watching that, maybe it's hard to grasp that concept, but I'm 51. So for me, I lived more than I would live. I want to live the rest of my life in more empowered way, in more energized way. That means letting go of things that don't serve me. Is it going to be easy? No, absolutely not. But it's going to be worth it? Absolutely yes. And you know what? If something is meant to be, it will be. If you leave a relationship, but down the road, you grow and this person grows and you meet again and you come together in a more healthier way, that is what was meant to be. Because sometimes we need to diverge, learn lessons on our own so we can come back together and give more to each other. Like we're learning lessons together and then we gotta learn lessons on our own and come back together and give to each other. I mean, there's so many examples. I'm sure you know people divorcing, leaving relationships, and years afterwards, they come back together. But they've learned lessons now. They have what to give each other. They are different people now. And so nothing is constant in life. Nothing is fixed. Everything is flowing. You have to learn to flow with life and listen to your intuition. This is the most important thing. When something is telling you that it's not working, and it's not fear, because sometimes fear, will tell us, don't do this, don't go for that, even though that's where you need to go because that's where you're going to grow. But this fear with the what ifs, don't listen to that, but listen to your intuition, to your core. And you're going to have this calm feeling of, without any questions, go for it or let it go or whatever message. But you need to be grounded, meditate, and listen inward to find these answers. You're not going to find these answers talking to friends and all that. You need to look inward so you can find these answers and to find what you need to do, to walk away or stay. So letting go, it's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, even maybe with the same person down the road. So this is for today's video. I'll see you next time. Ciao.